Alright. I hate all of this, honestly. Because like, I always liked Quinn. This has just made me like really care for him like a lot. If it didn't fucking make it obvious by was bursting into tears at his suicide note, like what the fuck. But like, Sebastian is author's favorite, as we all know. But did the author realize that making Sebastian kill Quinn so many times, and it being wholly undeserved, by the way, because Quinn is just nice, he's just lovely. He has issues, but that doesn't make him a fucking bad person. Just killing him makes... I do not like Sebastian anymore. Like, any misplaced or like, I don't know, feeling that I had towards him, which was already small, by the way, has just gone now. I'm sick of seeing him turn up. But this is the last two endings, I think. Let me check. We got last two endings. There's one CG coming up, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 CGs coming up in the ending that is good, that is necessary to get the next Particles chapter, which I'm kind of looking forward to. I wonder if that will I wonder if getting that ending will say anything towards the larger story. Anyway, yes, you're a murderer. Sorry, I don't want to say it. I sighed heavily and considered his question, but I already knew my answer. I spent my life around death and suffering, and I'd wanted only to escape it. What that man tried to do was awful, horrific, and unforgivable. I can understand why you reacted the way you did, especially after everything you went through. Brandon's words kept echoing through my mind. Let's just say I would have done a lot worse. I could only imagine what Quinn felt when he walked into that room, or what he thought as he attacked that horrible man. But given the circumstances, I understood why it happened. Quinn acted out of fear, hurt, and love for his little sister. When I considered how Brandon might react in such a situation, I knew it would be significantly different. Brandon's actions would have been determined by careful planning, rage, hatred, and revenge. He would have saved me out of love, but he would have spent days, weeks, or even months punishing and tormenting the perpetrator just for his own sick amusement and vengeance. I understand, but I also don't think anyone deserves to die, Quinn. Well, I don't believe this. What the fuck? Why is this required to get this next ending? I hate this. I actually feel so bad. I don't judge you for your actions, nor would I want you in jail for it, but yes, I do think you murdered him, and I think that was wrong. Given the circumstances, though, I understand why you would make a mistake like that, and I understand why you would leave home after. A mistake, huh? Quinn dried his eyes with his sweaty t-shirt and sighed with a shaky breath. He stared out into the night, no longer looking at me, but lost in his own thoughts. He seemed hurt by my words, but I didn't know what else I could say. He asked for my opinion, and I was truthful. It's getting late. Let me show you to the guest room. It's not much, but you'll have quiet and privacy. Quinn showed me into a tiny little room beneath the stairs. It was once a laundry room, but the machines were removed decades ago. The space was entirely empty except for a stiff old cot, some worn blankets and pillows, and a half-open small window near the ceiling. Where will you be sleeping? Yeah, don't worry, I'm not faring any better. They took over my room ages ago. I sleep in the treehouse out in the woods whenever I'm here. It's a dirty place because of the kids, but the weather is always nice this time of year. I don't mind it. Oh, alright. I'll see you tomorrow then. Yeah, night. Quinn shut the door behind him and I sat on the small old cot with a sigh. He tried not to let it show, but it was obvious he was hurt. I wondered if I should have kept my mouth shut or lied about my feelings. I didn't want there to be any uncomfortable tension between us. I dug through my bags and pulled out my packed nightlights, then stuck them into the free power outlets before turning off the overhead lights. The cot was stiff and the blankets were old and raggedy. I laid down and stared up at the ceiling, fretting over the entire exchange. I tossed and turned for most of the night. The sound of loud playing children woke me the next morning. I'd barely slept and felt groggy. I changed clothes, repacked my bag, and trudged out of the laundry guest room. Most of the people were outside, watching the children. I immediately realized by how high the sun was that it was afternoon. Huh? You? I mean, Valkii, right? Oh my god, did Quinn seriously leave you behind? I hope you're feeling ill or something. What time is it? Almost lunch. I was gonna make food for the kids. Jeez, I knew Quinn was an asshole, but this? He dragged you all the way out here from the city and just left you behind? I'm so sorry, sweetie. Really, you're better off dumping his sorry ass. He turns his back on everyone. I was still in the groggy daze from the lack of sleep, but for some reason I wasn't surprised after our talk last night. I'd hurt his feelings a lot more than I expected. When will he be back? Not till dinner, sorry. But you're welcome to hang around here with us and the kids. Would you mind keeping an eye on them while I make lunch for everyone? I don't mind, but I've never watched children before. Wow, really? I can't even imagine. It's easy. Just make sure they don't kill themselves or each other, and they don't wander out of sight. She took a few moments pointing out all the kids and their names to me. I counted them so I could easily know if one got lost. I joined the children in the yard as Hannah left to make food. The kids got excited to have a new playmate, and the rest of the day was spent playing with them. They taught me dozens of games I'd never even heard of, and with all the chaos and fun, I quickly lost track of time. Before I'd realized it, night had fallen, and the kids were wrangled inside for dinner shortly before Quinn and Lilith returned. I waited on the porch, nervous and anxious about what came next. Quinn followed shortly behind Lilith, who happily skipped her way into the house for dinner. She passed me with a bright smile and a wave. Quinn paused beside me with a frown after Lilith went inside and shoved his hands nervously in his pockets, looking at the ground. Are you angry? No, I'm sorry. Listen, hon, you have nothing to be sorry for. I'm the selfish shithead. I'm sorry I just left. I was still obsessing over last night, and if you tagged along, I wouldn't have been able to stop thinking about it. I didn't want to ruin Lily's birthday because I can't behave like a goddamn adult. So yeah, I'm the one who needs to apologize. I don't have any right to judge. Stop, please. I asked. You answered. It's fine. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just want to put everything behind me. Okay. You ready to go home? If we leave now, we'll be home by midnight. I don't really want to stay here another night. Okay, sure. I feel like a piece of shit. What's the next choice? Will you act? We said our goodbyes and hit the road. It was a long, quiet drive, and we barely spoke for most of the ride. The radio filled the car with songs, news, and advertisements. It was past midnight when we finally arrived at our apartment building, carrying our overnight bags over our shoulders. We were walking up to it when a vaguely familiar voice called out to us. There you are, beautiful. Quinn paused just before we reached our door, and I looked over his shoulder to see the red-haired irregular from the cafe standing one door down. Quinn grinned mischievously. Why, thank you, handsome. Sebastian laughed and approached with a smile. You're not so bad either. Quinn, right? I've seen you walking her home from the cafe a few times. I'm Sebastian. You know this guy? Yeah, he's a regular at work. Hi, Sebastian. What are you doing here? I just moved in. It seems we're neighbors now. Neighbors, huh? What's a hot guy like you doing in a hellhole like this? Well, it was just the first place I could find on short notice. But anyway, what are you two doing out so late? It's not safe out here for two lovely young beauties like yourselves. I'm sure a big, handsome knight like yourself will protect us from the terrors of the night. Sebastian was starting to look a little uncomfortable. His eyes drifted over to me more than once. It's really late. We should get to bed. We both have work tomorrow. Oh, you go ahead, hon. I don't mind a late night with our handsome new neighbor. I'm flattered, but I have an early day tomorrow, too. Will you be working tomorrow, Valkii? I have school tomorrow. Oh, how about you and I go for breakfast in the morning? My treat. I'd love to get to know you better since we'll be neighbors now. Quinn pouted at being excluded from the offer. Sebastian ignored him while waiting for my answer. I guess, okay. Wonderful. See you then. Sebastian returned to his apartment and we entered ours. Quinn sighed as he tossed his bag onto the sofa. Of course, the hot new guy is into you too. I paused and blinked, unsure if I'd heard him correctly. Too? Quinn's eyes went wide for a moment before he groaned a little. Shit, I didn't mean to say that out loud. Look, it's probably obvious I've liked you from the start, and I get it. You're not into me, especially if you think I'm a murderer, so don't worry about it. It's not like you're the first unrequited love I've had or anything. I'll get over it. Quinn likes me. He'd flirted with me a handful of times, but I never thought he was that serious about me. I felt mixed emotions, strangely hurt and disappointed, but also like I'd completely lost any chance of us becoming more. He could never forgive me for calling him a murderer. I shook the thought from my mind with a resigned sigh. I couldn't let myself get lost in what could never happen in the first place. It was too risky for me to date Quinn. Brandon was too dangerous. I wasn't willing to subject Quinn to that life. He'd been through too much already. Sorry. I wish I hadn't said that. I want you to know I think you're a good person. Yeah, not saying it doesn't mean you aren't thinking it. I'd rather know the truth, so back on topic. Are you into him? Sebastian? I don't know. I don't know him outside of the cafe. Sweet, he's up for grabs then. Don't mind me taking my shot. Okay. I'm going to bed. Yeah, good night. I don't like where this is going already. The next day, Quinn was asleep when I left. I was too tired the previous night to understand what Quinn had been hinting at, and the realization that he was planning on dating Sebastian left me anxious. While getting ready, I decided that I didn't want to be in the middle of Quinn's pursuit of Sebastian, especially after what happened between us. I decided to tell Sebastian everything and step out of the way. Sebastian was waiting for me outside, smiling warmly as he offered me a single rose. "Good morning, darling." "Oh, hi, thank you. Listen, we need to talk. That's what the breakfast is for, gorgeous. Come on, I don't want you to be late for school." I wanted to protest, but he swept me along with loving smiles and compliments, once again leaving me flustered. I requested we go to the cafe because it was a short walking distance from school and a familiar environment, which I hoped would ease my nerves. Julian wasn't there that morning. What's the... Sorry, someone responded to me that hasn't in a long time. Alright, I was looking at this. Will you act? We ordered our breakfast and found a quiet table in the back, and I finally swallowed my nerves and spoke. "I appreciate the meal and all, but I don't think we should do this again." Sebastian's eyes narrowed as he stirred his coffee. "Why is that, darling?" "Quinn, my roommate, I think he likes you and I don't really know you, and he's had a rough time, and we sort of had a disagreement, I guess. I don't want to get between you and him, so I..." Sebastian nearly choked on his coffee as he laughed. He cleaned himself up with a napkin, barely holding in his giggles. "Quinn and me? What on earth gave you the idea there was ever or would ever be a Quinn and me?" I hesitated for a few moments, then frowned. "I don't know. He likes you, and you called us both beauties, and..." "Darling, my sweet, a man can acknowledge beauty in the world without desiring it for himself. I have no interest in Quinn because I've already found my soulmate." "Oh, that's sweet. Does she know?" He chuckled softly to himself. "Unfortunately, it seems she doesn't know. How do you think I should tell her?" "Oh gosh, I've never thought about something like that. I don't know. If I could, I would propose to her immediately, somewhere nice, quiet, and private at dinner. Then I'd whisk her away to a lovely hotel room, and we'd celebrate with wine and a hot bath together, and then I'd make love to her until we fall asleep in each other's arms." I felt my cheeks redden at the idea. This seemed too intimate to share, but he looked so happy as he talked. "The next day, I'd take her to a beautiful beach in Italy, and we'd marry the following morning at sunrise on the shore. Afterwards, we'd spend the next few months on our honeymoon traveling the world." That sounds very romantic. "I'm glad you think so, because there is. Valkii, Sebastian, there y'all are." We both looked up with surprise to see Quinn jogging over to us with a bright, happy smile on his face. "Wow, Quinn, you dyed your hair already?" "Yeah, I stayed up late doing it. Can't stand the blonde. Reminds me too much of home. That's why I overslept and nearly missed breakfast. You should have woken me, hun." I glanced over at Sebastian, and he looked highly annoyed. I didn't have the heart to remind Quinn that he hadn't been invited, or to tell him Sebastian wasn't interested in him romantically. "You weren't invited, Quinn." But Sebastian had no such qualms. "Oh, come on, don't be like that. We're all friendly neighbors." Quinn stole a piece of food from my plate, grinned at Sebastian, and sat down beside him. "A few of my friends are going to a club downtown this weekend. How about you be my +1, Sebby?" Sebby? Apparently, they recently renovated the place so it looks brand new. Should be quite a crowd. I glanced down at my phone, realized the time, and slid my food across the table in front of Quinn. "Oh, sorry, I have to run for class. Help yourself, Quinn." "Awesome, thanks. Have fun, hun." Fucking hell. I watched with a sigh as my love rushed out of the cafe with a smile and a wave. I was mere moments away from confessing to her. Maybe it's for the best. I need to buy a ring first. Ever since she suddenly vanished, I was in a panic. I was grateful to learn she'd only left on a spontaneous trip with Quinn, but the fear had been all-consuming. My men checked the Viator household, but found nothing regarding her whereabouts. I generously bribed their next-door neighbors to move out overnight so I could keep a closer eye on my dearest. I didn't expect this roommate to cause so much trouble, though. "Quinn, what are your feelings for Valkii?" I watched his expression carefully as it shifted from surprise to sadness, then to playful. I could read the truth in his eyes. He loved her, but something was keeping him away. It was a look I'd seen in the mirror daily for most of my life. "Oh, she's a sweetie, isn't she? But don't worry, there's nothing going on between us." I didn't believe that for a moment. It was obvious to anyone who looked that there was tension between them. There was something going on, although I was uncertain of the nature. Perhaps Valkii rejected it, maybe he hurt her feelings, or they could have fought over something. There were many possibilities, and none of them pleased me. Here's a risk I did not factor in. Whatever stood between them, there were clearly high emotions, but all barriers could be broken through with enough time and closeness, and this flirting with me, I suspected there was an ulterior motive. His intentions were not to seduce me, but to stand between my love and I, perhaps to buy himself more time, or perhaps purely out of greed. He may even intend to make Valkii jealous. Whatever his game, he will lose, probably. I leaned over to Quinn and put on my most charming smile. "So, what kind of party is it?" "Whatever kind you want it to be, handsome." Really? Any kind I want, hmm? Quinn smirked, leaned over, and rested his hand on my chest. His eyes narrowed seductively. Any kind you want. I licked my lips and whispered into his ear. Normally, I'm not into guys, but I have a feeling you could convince me otherwise. Quinn chuckled softly as his hand ran down my chest over my stomach, then rested on my inner thigh. I don't mind a bit of role play. Text me the address, I'll meet you there. Don't trust this at all. I hope this is girly enough. The week passed by at a snail's pace. By the time Saturday came, I was a bundle of nerves. I spent hours on my makeup and hair, constantly worried if I looked like I was trying too hard or not hard enough. I didn't want to seem desperate, but I was. I kept my distance from Valkii all week, opting instead to leave early and stay late at work to avoid her. That was foolish because it only left me feeling lonelier. I could tell Sebastian liked Valkii, but my feelings were still hurt, and a perverse part of me hoped I could steal him away. He was an obvious catch, being handsome, rich, and charming. I'd been with enough people in my life to know the power of lust could crush feelings of love and kill relationships, and some dark part wanted to deny Valkii that chance of happiness. I finished applying eyeliner and lipstick, then checked myself in the mirror. I'd selected a colourful dress to wear with women's panties and high-heeled shoes. I was certain no one would look at me and think I was anything other than a woman. I'd considered stuffing a bra as well, but decided that would be distasteful since Sebastian already knew I was male. Guilt for my childishness weighed on me. I was still hurt and angry that she judged me. I thought if anyone could see and understand the real me, it would be her, and now I feared I would be alone forever. I still believed my past actions were moral and justified, but Valkii made those feelings of doubt return and haunt me. That one act was still ruining my life over a decade later. The simple truth was that I loved Valkii. I didn't want her to be with anyone else. If I couldn't be happy, why should she? I hated myself for having such thoughts. I left my room to see her door closed and her light on. She was probably studying. I considered knocking to say goodbye, but decided against it, so I left the apartment. So, what are we role-playing tonight? I jumped at the voice that whispered in my ear and spun to see Sebastian dressed in dark clothes and wearing eyeshadow. Oh, you got out. This is fucked. This is fucked up. I grinned widely, impressed that he was playing along with the game. I'm up for anything, handsome. He leaned over me and waved down the bartender to order a few shots for each of us before sitting down on the stool beside me. Anything, That's quite bold. Are you sure? I nodded with a confident smirk, certain that Sebastian was vanilla enough to be incapable of surprising me. His eyes narrowed as he watched me, searching for doubt that was not to be found. The bartender delivered our drinks and we both took a shot. Then in a blink of an eye, he stood up, towering over me, and grabbed my neck tightly. He pulled me against his warm body and whispered in my ear, "Then we'll play my favorite game, master and slave." My heart skipped a beat as I looked up into his deep, intimidating eyes. A shiver ran down my spine. He released my neck, cupped my cheek, and ran his thumb along my lower lip. "You're going to be my good, obedient little pet tonight, and if you behave and please me, you'll be rewarded." Hours seemed to pass in the blink of an eye. We drank, danced, smoked, and snorted our way into high heaven. By the time I needed to piss, I'd consumed more drugs than I could remember. My hands were unsteady, my mind was fuzzy, and it took some effort to walk without stumbling. When I returned from the toilet, I met a harsh but unsurprising truth. One benefit of my childhood trauma was that I faced the dark reality of human nature far sooner than most. I'd avoided much heartache by learning to expect the worst from people. Several women had approached him during the night, and most of them he'd politely rejected. Now he sat at the bar with a new woman, brushing strands of hair behind her ear with a charming smile. The bartender brought them a pair of cocktails, and the woman accepted with a shy smile. To my surprise, when he noticed me, he smiled and nodded me over. Curious, I approached, and Sebastian held out the cocktail in front of him to me. "Thought you might like one." "For me?" "Of course, they're a bit fruity for me." He chuckled as I accepted the drink hesitantly. "Oh, is she your girlfriend?" The girl was visibly disappointed. I smiled as I looked to Sebastian, curious how he would answer. I fully expected him to explain that I was male and just a friend. My relationships are always serious, but I'm not a monogamous kind of guy. I know it's not for everyone, but if you want to talk it over, text me. He grabbed a napkin and pulled out a pen from his pocket, then scribbled down his number and handed it to the girl with his flirtatious smile and loving eyes. "Think it over. I hope to hear from you." Without waiting for a response, he stood, wrapped an arm around my shoulder, and escorted me back to our table. There was an order of chips and chicken wings waiting for us. "So, polygamy, huh? Is that a problem for you?" "No, but I think it might be for Valkii." He snickered and shrugged. It's not like I ever got a chance to ask her, but can't blame a guy for trying. I could and would. I suspected he'd been trying to make Valkii fall in love with him before he revealed the news. I wasn't sure how she would react, but I knew it wouldn't be positive. It struck me how different this man seemed than when we talked at the cafe, but I could chalk some of the differences up to the drugs and alcohol. "Sorry if you're jealous, but I did warn you I wasn't into men." "That's not quite what you said." I shrugged it off, happy I could warm Valkii away from this douchebag, but I figured I may as well enjoy the party and have some fun. Honestly, I don't know how men function in this world with women around. Huh? He gestured out to the crowd at the various women standing around dancing and drinking. I mean, fuck, look at them. There's no such thing as an ugly woman. Tall, short, thin, fat, blonde, brunette, none of it matters. They're all beautiful in their own way. I mean, that's a nice sentiment, but you're still gross. I have my preferences, just like any man, but I've yet to meet a woman I wouldn't fuck at least once. I have no idea what to say to that. He chuckled and shrugged his shoulders. They're all amazing. I love women to a maddening extent. Their soft bodies, their supple breasts, their sexy and adorable faces, their laughs, their clothes, their makeup, they all smell unique, the smooth skin. Their tender lips, the way their hair brushes against my skin. I'm not reading that, Alexander, fuck off. I'm surprised you can't. He laughed heartily at that. A man's got a piss, you know. But seriously, why aren't women ruling this world? I may be a dominant man myself, but my girls know how to get what they want, and I love it. I can only pity other men. Well, alright. There is no greater pleasure in life than holding a woman. I was a bit surprised that he said holding a woman instead of fucking a woman. He was lost in his memories with a sappy smile on his face. I found myself growing more curious about him by the moment. He was completely different than I imagined. Bit of a pervert, Zebby. Zebby? Huh, guilty as charged. His lack of reaction to the nickname surprised me. Last time it seemed to anger him. Gotta say though, you talk about women like they're nothing but sex objects. Let me stop you right there before you piss me off. I talk about sex because it's my favourite part, not the only part. I'm fully committed to my girls, just as they are to me. I take care of them physically, mentally, and emotionally, and I do so with great pleasure. You just said you'd fuck any... Is that your hang-up? From a purely physical perspective, that's true, but my girls and I have a clear arrangement from the start. And those rules are my religion. I don't break them. Doing so would ruin everything I've built with all of them. And believe me or not, I love my girls with all my heart. How many girls do you have? Currently 3. My max is 6. Sometimes less, depending on the needs of the current girls. I learned my limits the hard way long ago. Jesus fuck, 6? It's rare. 3 to 4 is typical. So, you what? Rotate women? Not by choice. The arrangement is temporary. That's made clear from the start. It's not marriage. Most of my girls choose to leave to pursue their dreams. They often want things that I can't or won't provide, like children, careers, settling down. Women are very fickle creatures, but things end on good terms. Not fickle creatures, you dick. We just, like, want different things. We can't just want to flit about life like a BDSM dickhead all day. Like, what the hell? He said it with such sadness that I felt a little sorry for him. So they always end it, not you. I only end it if they break the rules. I'm very selective. Huh? That girl you just talked to? I offered her a conversation, not an invitation to my bedroom. I see. I'm curious. What's the longest you've been with one woman? A bright smile filled his face and he laughed lightly. I'm still with her now. Her name is Vanessa. How long has it been? 5 years at least? I knew her for a couple of years before we got involved. I wanted her sooner, honestly, but her family was a challenge. This man was more confusing by the minute, but I couldn't deny my curiosity had spiked. So if you're not into men, what was the point of meeting me here? Don't knock it till you try it. Speaking of which, I've grown bored. How about we continue with this party at my place? Sure. Oh, I should mention, I have a new girlfriend staying with me. Strangely, my date did not take me back to our apartment building. His place was a large, expensive apartment in the city. I raised a brow as we stepped inside. Don't want Valkii to know about? I've missed you, Daddy. Blech. Gross. A voice echoed out as a tall, skinny woman in lingerie appeared from the hallway. She glanced at me, paused, and frowned. Jessica, you look beautiful, but that jealousy does not. She visibly deflated and bit her bottom lip, then nodded and approached. Sebastian wrapped his broad arms around her in a hug. I felt confused. Had he scolded her like a child for one bad look at me? Sorry. It's okay. It's always hard in the beginning. This is Quinn. He'll be hanging out with us tonight. He? Yep, surprise, has a cock between my legs. Her face blushed and she looked up to Sebastian with a bit of panic. He laughed and kissed her forehead. Told you 100 times. You can always say no, princess. She still looked uncertain, as though she were afraid to disappoint him, but his words seemed sincere. I still couldn't get over the fact that the real Sebastian was so different from my expectations. I'm still a stranger to her. Maybe we should start with a drink. The next few hours became a blur. Sebastian and his girlfriend had such a massive collection of drugs they would put most dealers to shame. Many of them were from other countries and had names I was either unable to or too drunk to pronounce. We ordered an absurd amount of delivery food, and the place was already stocked with alcohol. We played music, talked, danced, and eventually started fooling around. With a good amount of alcohol in her, Jessica relaxed significantly. Sebastian repeatedly pushed her further out of her comfort zone by giving her instructions to interact intimately with me. It started light and playfully. He told her to hug me, then to kiss my cheek, then my lips. With each escalation, she grew more nervous. He stood near the coffee table, watching with a smirk and holding a half-full whiskey glass. I laid on my back with an enormous sofa, with Jessica straddling me with a flushed face. She looked adorable. We're not talking about this. He chuckled and approached. She looked a little nervous. Sebastian reached down, rested his hand gently on her throat, and leaned down to kiss her deeply. You're doing so well. You don't need to be so anxious. It's okay to enjoy yourself with others when I give you permission. You as well, slave boy. I chuckled at the name and decided to take some initiative. I slid my hand, but we're not gonna... Slave boy, need I remind you of your place? She belongs to me, and you will touch her only in the ways I dictate. Is that understood? I'd experienced plenty of BDSM play, but this level of control was new to me. I didn't struggle as he pulled both of my hands above my head and held them over the sofa's arm, staring at me with a dirty grin. Yes, sir. Good boy. Yep. Her face was constant red, both from shyness and narcotics. She stripped his orders, exposing her full round breasts to me, and then leaned down and pressed her lips firmly against mine. I'm just gonna stop it here. You'll get my... Yeah, you... Okay. Okay, I think we're done. So she called out his name. So he's like, Alex. He's like, I prefer Alexander. This is like... our word by deception, right? So that's fucked up, dude. That's super fucked up. You seem like an okay guy outside of the BDSM system, which I'm just not into personally, and it makes me think you're... makes me like kind of sickened. But like he's the one who has some kind of head on his shoulders, but apparently not. This is gross. He took a deep swig before passing it to me. Still confused, I hesitantly accepted. I am quite impressed by your naivety. My twin and I are nothing alike in terms of personality. Did you really have no clue until she spelled it out for you? Twins are not that rare. You're not Sebastian. I'm not Sebastian. Yep. Thank you, Quinn. This kind of thing... I was struggling to process the news. I'm not going to read that. He snorted and rolled his eyes. Sebastian said you spoke for 5 minutes at most. We were together all night. The only interest you had in my brother was his looks and his money. The fact you couldn't tell us apart is the only proof I needed of that. Because guess what? I've got the same looks and the same money. Our identities are irrelevant. No, not how it works. I'm not a fucking gold digger. I just wanted some fun. And you got it, so it doesn't matter what my name is. I fell silent, but I felt sick to my stomach as he stared at me with an amused grin. Did I mess up? Alexander crawled over to the bed and lay beside her and gently kissed her lips. No, baby girl, just some man talk, don't worry about it. She smiled as he stroked her face and littered her lips and cheeks with kisses before holding her close. I sat down on the end of the bed, watching them as my heart filled with jealousy and envy. My brain slowly began realizing the situation I was in and what happened. Sebastian tricked me. He was probably with Valkii all night. He was probably in bed with her, holding her naked, spent body close, just like Alexander and Jessica. Once again, I was left alone in the cold. I took a swig of tequila before dropping it on the floor. This party ain't over, right? I need something stronger. A lot fucking stronger. Alexander grinned at me and crawled off the bed. Oh, I got just the thing for you. Jessica, call Vanessa. Tell her to come over in nothing but a coat and heels. It's time for some real fun now. Alexander's bed was large enough for all to... I might have to go again. I left for a bathroom break and stopped in the doorway as I returned. We were all exhausted, sweaty, and spent. Both girls clung to Alexander beneath the sheets, and although half asleep himself, he nuzzled, petted, and whispered endless praise to each of them. I wanted to be a part of it, but they didn't really want me here. I was the new toy for the evening, something to be used and discarded, as always. I'd probably never see Alexander again after today, much less his girls. What the fuck is wrong with me? I was depressed, jealous, angry, upset, and my entire body was burning and freezing at the same time. The drugs mildly numbed the emotions, but not enough. I wanted to feel nothing, so I turned my back on them and returned to the living room. On the coffee table was a collection of various pills, powders, and alcohol. I grabbed a handful of Alexander's favourite mystery pills and swallowed them with a swig of vodka before falling onto the couch. I prayed for sleep to take me. I heard footsteps a minute later. You're already past the limit. Don't take anything else. Why? Not like you care. Excuse me? I care about all my... You girls, I know. I'm not one of them. Really? You played the part quite well tonight. I'm a talented actor, I guess. Listen, That shit is dangerous. It'll fuck your head up, make you see shit that isn't real, and you could hurt yourself or someone else. Why did you pretend to be Sebastian? Hmm? Oh, he asked me to. You were coming between him and his soulmate. He said the word with such heavy distaste I would have laughed if I weren't so depressed. I love Valkii. Fucking hell. Is that woman a siren? I guess you'll find out, dude. Don't call her. Listen, a friendly piece of advice. Give it up. Standing in my brother's way will end poorly for you. What am I supposed to do with these feelings? The only thing you can do. Kill them. Kill them? If my words tonight offended you, I'm sorry. I honestly enjoyed having you here much more than I expected. Stay here tonight. Guest room, couch, on my bed. Take your pick. There's plenty of room for you with us. We'll talk about the future tomorrow when we're sober. Seriously, do not take anything else and do not leave this apartment. Wake me if you start losing your mind. See, he's like a good guy, but he's also not. Alexander returned to the bedroom while I continued to sit on the couch and stare into nothingness as my mind fixated on my circumstances. Sweat dripped down my head, my stomach felt ill, and my skin was itchy and wet. I needed food, water, and a shower. All I could think was that Sebastian wanted me out of the way. Alexander only pretended to have interest in me as a favour to his twin. Valkii didn't love me, and my own kin hated me. I belonged nowhere. I noticed my cell phone on a side table and grabbed it. I speed-dialed the number at the top of my contacts list, one I called habitually when I was wasted, a taxi. He said not to leave. Alright. I will see you in the next one.